Welcome to our Facebook Live. It is Monday, October the 27th. I'm glad you joined me today because we are going to talk about everything you are doing right as a parent. Now, jump in the comment section, say hello, tell me where you're from. I have followers from all over the world, so I'm always excited to see who shows up for these Facebook Lives. And do remember that these are always on replay after on my page or on my website, PamelaPalanza.com, and on my YouTube channel. So you can find it there if you're not able to watch the live today. But my name is Pam Palanza. I'm a parenting mentor focusing on common sense behavior management for neurotypical children age 2 to 12. And the reason I decided to do this topic today is I hear from parents a lot about things they think they're doing wrong, that they feel judged, that maybe their children are already raised and they look back and say, boy, I should have done things differently, right? Or they're raising children now and they're like, I'm just overwhelmed. I don't think I'm a good parent. I feel guilty every time I'm doing things wrong. And I can just say this, when I was raising my children, there was not social media. Thank goodness, because I think that's an added pressure that parents have today because there are people like me coming on and saying, here's how you should do things, and everyone has different opinions, and it's just overwhelming. And so they feel like they're failing their children. And so we're going to put a stop to that today. If you're here, we're putting a stop to that. Because I want you to flip that script. Sure, there might be things you need to work on. Sure, there might be some skills you need to learn. Maybe there's things you're doing you need to stop doing, and you need to change those. That's fine. But here's how our human brain works. We focus on the negative. We focus on what's not working. We focus on what we're doing wrong. I mean, look, how many news channels are there out there telling us everything negative that's going on in the world, right? So our human brain focuses on that. But all of the positive that you're doing or you've done, you forget about. So you kind of push that aside because you think, instead of going, oh, this is what I'm doing right, way to go, you're going, see, you're doing it wrong. See, you should have done that. You shouldn't yell at your kids. You shouldn't have done this. You should have done da, 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 da. And this thing's yakking in your ear over here, instead of all the positive, wonderful things you're doing as a parent. So we're going to talk about that. And by the time we're done, my goal is for you to have this list of all these positive things you're doing, and then the things that you think you're doing, you think maybe you're doing wrong, or you feel guilty about, will be short compared to this long list. Okay? And I'm going to start this off by saying, I had a friend, Sharon. I have a friend, Sharon, I talk to every other week for the last 3 years. We do Zoom calls. She and I and another lady. And this morning she reminded me of this, and it's so important. At least in the United States, you are only legally required to provide food, shelter, and clothing for your child until they're age 18. After that, you're no longer responsible for it. And there's no definition that says what that food, clothing, shelter looks like. So sometimes as parents, as you are feeling, I'm not doing enough, my house isn't big enough, I'm not giving them enough, you need to stop and think and and here's where we're going to start listing the positives. So if you have a piece of paper, I want you to take this piece of paper and I want you to start writing these things down and check, check, check next to them. If not, don't worry about it. We're going to go over some of them here. If you are one of my subscribers, check the subscriber hub tomorrow because there's a list I'm giving you of like 80 things that you're probably doing right as a parent that you're not even noticing or thinking about. Okay, so you should have a long list. It's a checklist. Hi, Rose. So you can just check, check, check off. All right, but for those of you who are on here now, get pencil and paper handy. Grab your phone, the notes on your phone, whatever it is you want to do. Or just mentally sit here as I'm saying these things and go, yep, I'm doing that. Yep, I'm doing that. Okay. Before we dive into that, a reminder, the workshop November 13th on how to stop yelling and start connecting still has slots available. So if you're interested, go to my website. Across the top, you'll see a banner. All the details are there when you click on that link. Okay. All right, let's dig into this list. Now, if you're doing food, shelter, and clothing for your children, right there, you're doing 3 things positive. 3 things. So right off the bat, you've already got 3 things you're doing right as a parent. And see, what we do as parents is we go, well, that's my job. Well, sure it is, but not everybody does it, right? Everybody does it at different levels, different capacities, different economic backgrounds, but you're doing it. So you have 3 things already you're doing right. So this is what I'm saying. Besides the basic things, let's talk about some of those other things that you are doing that are right. And then if some of these resonate with you, hit yes, yes, yes. And hello, Susanna, Miriam, and Carly, who've just hopped in. So just put yes, yes, yes in the comment section for me. Okay. Do you make sure your child has a warm bed to sleep in at night? So we talked about that. Food, clothing, shelter. Part of the shelter is a warm bed to sleep in. Do they have clean clothes? I mean, granted, sometimes we all did this. It's in the dirty pouch, shake it off, throw it in the dryer for a second, put it back on. Okay, but do they have clothes to wear, right? Check. Okay, simple thing. Do you have lights on in your house? Heat. Water running? Check, check, check. All right, this is so simple, but these are things that we as parents are taking for granted, not realizing, well, wait a minute, there are children who don't have these things in their house. And, you know, I have followers from all over the world. There's all different cultures, all different socioeconomic levels. Some children don't have a decent bed to sleep in. They don't necessarily have a roof over their head that is safe and secure. So check, check, check. If there are things that I'm saying that you're not doing right now, maybe make a little note on that and say it's something I need to work on. But if there are things you're doing, check, check, check. Okay? Do you make your home feel like the safest place in the world to your child? Like they know you've always got their back. When they come home from school, they're like so happy to get home. It's their safe space and you're their safe person or people. If you're doing that, check. Okay. Do you ever comfort your child when they wake up from a bad dream? Or let them snuggle in bed with you? Or when they're crying, you're holding them and comforting them? You're doing those things right. Add those on your checklist of positives. Are you following me here? How simple this is? Put yes if some of this is making sense to you. Do you tell your children every day, at least once a day, I love you? Even on those hard days when you're like, what was I thinking having children? We've all had those days. Let's be real about it. Okay? Do you tell them you love them? Good. You're doing something right. All right. Do you reassure your child when they make a mistake that it's okay, mistakes are part of learning? Check. And let me stop here for a second and say something. I think often as parents, because we live in a materialistic world, and we often think that we should be giving our children things, physical things, toys, cars, games, money, whatever, physical clothes, fancy clothes. All these things we think they need to be happy. And really none of that is that important. And you'll realize that as you get older. I'm a lot older than most of you on here. Some of you are my age, some of you are a little bit older. And if you are, you realize looking back, none of that's really important. What is important is the time you spend with your family. Check, if you're doing that. The experiences you give them, the lessons that you're teaching them, the life skills that they're going to have that's going to carry them through life. If you're doing those things, there's more checklists. Check, check, check. Okay, but we don't think about that. We think about, well, how big of a house do we have? What fancy car do we drive? How nice can my children be dressed? What fancy vacations can we take them on? And that's great if you do those things. Check, check, check. But what's important is some of these other things we're talking about. And there's things that you do that's the daily grind that you don't even think about. You don't even think about. Do your children go to school? Do they go to school? Whether it's public, private, homeschool, do they go to school? Do you know there are places in the world children don't have that opportunity? Or you have 70 or 80 kids crammed in a classroom with one teacher. Okay? If your children are going to school and they're getting educated, however that is, check. Okay? Do you ever stay up late washing your children's clothes or their uniforms so they're clean for the next day? Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you right now, once they're 7, 8 years old, teach them how to do their own laundry. But guess what? Do you have a washing machine and a dryer in your home for them to use or have access to one at a laundromat close by? Check. Okay? Have you ever sat in the carpool line? Ever? Dropped them off to school in the morning and then sat in the carpool line every single day for the whole school year. Check. Big check on that one. Yeah, big check on that one. Do you ever take your children to doctor's appointments? Do you ever sign forms that they need for school? Do you ever go on field trips with their class? Do you ever volunteer for anything in the classroom? If you can't physically be there, do you send something in? Do you contribute in some way? Check, check, check. Okay, so you're following me here on this. We're already like 10 minutes into this. And I probably listed 20 things already. And I'll bet you some of these are things you haven't even thought about as, oh, wow, I just take for granted that I do these things. I think I'm just supposed to. Well, and yeah, you are in a lot of cases, but legally, you're not. It's just, you're not. By law, at least in the United States, food, clothing, shelter, all that other stuff is extra. And you're probably all doing a whole lot of that and more. Okay? If you're on here, do me a favor. Go in the comment section and tell me one thing you think you're doing right as a parent. And I'll look at those in a minute. Just one thing you think you're doing right as a parent, whether it's basic, whether it's more involved. I just want to hear what you think that you're doing right, because I have people on here from Ghana, UK. What do you call the 3 things if the kids are over 21? Okay, do you love them? This is Richard asked me this. What do you call them? All my kids are over 21. My youngest is 24, almost 25. My oldest is 46. My children know I love them. They know this is a safe home. They know they can come here anytime. They know I love them unconditionally. They know that I'm support for them. So even though I'm not providing roof, shelter, and clothing, there's a lot of other things I'm doing. Okay, food, I'm there for them. I go to kids' soccer games all the time. We're very involved as a family. Our family is very close. We get together every single weekend, as we can most of the time. And my children know that. And here's something else. This is really interesting. And this is something I didn't even think about. And it just so happened I was talking to my 39-year-old daughter earlier, and I was telling her I'd gone to the gym this morning and I love working out and I feel so good. And she said, well, Mom, you gave us the gift of being active when we were little, because my children were all involved in sports. And she said, and then 2 of them were in the military. So she said, we've been active all our lives, and they still are. And now they're teaching their children to do the same thing. So it's like a legacy. And I didn't even think about that. It's like, well, there's something we did right. I told my husband, we went to lunch today, I was like, here's something we did right. We didn't even think about it. We just did it, right? So tell me some things that you think you're doing right. Let me go down here and see. Helping your 12-year-old son with his homework. Great. Okay. See that? There's something you're doing. Check. Staying involved in his daily activities. He's 12, almost 13. And you know what, Michelle? Let me tell you something. If you think your children need you when they're young, guess again. When they really need you is those brutal middle school years and those teenage years. That's when they really need parents supporting them and beside them, because those are some hard, hard years. I think middle school is just like an experience unto itself. You have the elementary years and then you go to those high school years, and if you can survive through this, you can pretty much survive anything, quite honestly. Okay, Nancy, you also helped us teach with computer issues during online learning. Brilliant. There you go. Okay? See, I love this. And these are probably things none of you thought to put on your checklist. Volunteering when you can, showing up whenever possible. Excellent, Tia Marie. I did that all the time. I was very involved in my kids' schools. Cooking delicious food for them. Excellent, Marion. Very good. Okay? So are you starting to understand the things that you do? And when we hang up here, when we're done, start listing them. Just take a piece of paper out and just start listing the things that you are doing that you didn't even think about before. Like where my daughter's saying, you gave us the gift of being active. Well, I didn't think of that. I mean, I totally forgot about that. We just did it, right? But for her to go, wow, that was a gift. Like not everybody gets that. You and Dad were at all our sports events. You drove us all over God's creation for soccer games and tournaments and spent a lot of money on us. And now here they are doing it with their children. So even things like that, start thinking about that, okay? Let me just double check if any more came in. Emmy, you're very, very interactive with him. Excellent. Helping my family whenever they need me. Okay, see, Richard, here's something too. And then Teresa, I'm glad you brought that up. As I said, we're very close as a family. If my kids call and say, I need you, boom, I drop what I'm doing if I can and I'm there. That's a gift you can give your children. That's something you can give your children, Richard. right? So my daughter calls and says, hey, listen, I've got to work a 12-hour shift and my husband has to go out of town for the weekend. Can you cover for me? Absolutely. Absolutely, I'll cover for you. No questions asked. And my children know that. They don't take advantage, but they know that's what I'm here for. And I'm happy to do it. Okay. All right. None of those come in. Okay. So again, if you are a subscriber, look in the hub tomorrow. I think it's going to release at 9 a.m. There's a list of over 80 things that I have come up with that you're doing right. And they're in categories. Social, emotional, the daily grind, physical things, all in there. And it's a checklist format. So I want you to check, check, check. And then I want you to compare it against all the things that you think you're doing wrong. And I had a follower say to me, I wish you could come to my house and show me everything I'm doing wrong. And I said, no, how about I come to your house and show you everything you're doing right? Wow, that's stopped her in her tracks, I think, because I didn't hear anything more after that. She's like, oh, I never thought of that. But that's why I thought it was so important to tell you today, because I hear this all the time from followers, like, oh, gosh, I screwed that up, or gosh, I should have done that differently, or I'm messing this up. And I'll tell you, the other thing my friend Sharon told me this morning was, she said her mother always said, don't worry about what you do with your children, because someday when they grow up, they're all going to need therapy, and it's all going to be the mother's faults. So I take that with a grain of salt. Anyway, okay. If you are not a subscriber, by the way, and you'd like to be, it's $4.99 a month, and there's no contract. You can just stop when you want, but you just go to one of my reels on Facebook, and at the top or somewhere in there, there's a link, and you can join. I'd be happy to have you because you get exclusive content and things extra like this. Okay, let's see. Anything? I started therapy and medicine to deal with my PTSD I've ignored for years. Amen. Good for you, Stephanie. Good for you. Because that's going to benefit your children. Because if you are not in a mental health space where you need to be or want to be, believe it or not, that bleeds onto your children. And I think you're aware of that now because you're starting therapy. So, hey, I'm all about mental health here in therapy. My husband's a psychologist. I'm all about mental health and taking care of yourself. I did therapy for like 3.5 years when I was taking care of my mother, and her dementia was just exhausting and overwhelming some days. And I said, I think I need some therapy. And best thing I ever did. So I'm all pro that here. Pro therapy. So very good. You should be very proud of yourself. That should be a big positive on your checklist. Okay. I don't know if I'm saying this right. Siwanti, I'm sorry if I hacked your name up. When I was a mom, never taught about doing so much as a grandmother. Now I take my granddaughters to school and pick them up in the afternoon. That is lovely. And do you know the memory you're going to leave for your granddaughters? They're going to remember that. That's awesome. That's something that you can never take away. Big check on your list. Okay? All right. I hope I gave you guys some ideas, and I hope I gave you food for thought. And that if you can do it right after you're done here, great. If not, find a quiet moment where you can sit down, even for 15 minutes. Piece of paper. Start with the things you think you're doing wrong, because that's where your brain's going to be first. You're going to be over here listing positives. You're going to go, oh, but, okay. So just start with the uhs first here. List the things you think you're doing wrong. You may be. You may not. You may just think you are. But then over here, start listing everything you're doing right for your child. And then when you look at that, and you're going to see this really long list of all the positives, and you're going to go, it's not so bad after all. I'm a pretty good mom. Or dad. Grandparents. Okay? All right, y'all. Until next week, remember, hug and love your babies. Bye.